Once again, we're on the go on KLO and on Channel 17, Ogden's community station. And we get a little bit of a different program today. We have the mayor with us, Mayor Matthew Godfrey. Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
How are you?
Excellent. Good to be here.
You sound pretty good this morning. This is going to be a different type show. We're going to be taking telephone calls, and first of all, we're going to have a couple of ground rules. We have Ashley, who's going to be our answerer of the phone, and we're also going to be talking to a lot of you folks, and we're going to give you about 2 minutes time. You'll be able to talk to the governor and the governor. I knew you'd make it big.
Yeah, thank you.
How about that, huh?
It was so easy, too.
Yeah. You have your own containers. Anyway, we'll be talking to the mayor, and we'll give you all about 2 minutes. We expect a lot of telephone calls. We have some questions we want to ask, too. But one rule is no abusive language today. Let's play it like adults today. Sounds good to me. How about you?
Sounds good.
Yeah, this sounds like a lot of fun today.
This is a family program, right?
This is the family show of all time. So we're also going to televise this on Channel 17. You know, this is something new. You're our own community television station. How is that going?
It's going very well. We have a great contractor. Bill Francis is doing a superior job, and his ability is allowing us to do things like this. We assume that next month we'll be ready to do a live show, not only on the radio, but on the television as well. And so it's going very well. A lot more use and a lot more visibility than we've ever had before.
How are we going to use it? Are we going to use it for public service type things or what?
Public service, just getting information out there. The thing that I hear more than anything else is that people want to know what's going on and what's happening and where things are at. And so communication is really hard for municipalities, and it's a tool to get the message out, hopefully a little more.
Okay. I'll tell you what we'll do. I was going to ask you a couple of questions, but we've got our lines all lit up already, so I think what we'll do is we'll go right to the, is that all right with you?
Sure.
Go right to the phone, and I think we have Donna with us, and Donna has a question for the mayor. Donna, are you there?
I am.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's good to have you with us this morning, Donna.
Oh, yes.
All right, and what's your question for the mayor?
Oh, well, I'm wondering what, if anything, is going to take place now in the proposed Walmart area. What they're going to do now, there's no eminent domain. How are they going to handle things, and where does that leave all of us who are living here, who have signed and who haven't signed with the city?
That's a good question.
So you actually live in the Walmart project area?
Right.
Okay. That's a great question, and we're working on it right now. We would, of course, still like the Walmart project to go through, and I know that I'm assuming you and a lot down there do want that to happen. And we really are at a huge disadvantage without eminent domain. As you know, so many in that area have been anxious to sell and have dealt very fairly, and we're looking at the appraised value, and we're willing to negotiate based on what you thought was fair and what was affordable. There is a budget for each of these projects. We only have so much money we can spend. And the problem that we have now is without eminent domain, there were some people that were just not being reasonable, that were asking multiples more than their value was worth. We had appraisals, sometimes 2 appraisals were done, and people were asking well beyond the appraised value for their properties. And the problem is there's just not money. People assume that because it's a Walmart project that there is this endless pot of money because Walmart's rich. Well, that's not the case. We have a signed agreement with Walmart for a purchase price, and the purchase price was based on the value of the land. And
what do you do? Have an assessor that does that?
Yeah, we have appraisers that have been out appraising it, and so they're actually buying it for a little more than its fair market value. So we don't have, when people say, well, just, let's get more money in here, that you're asking the city to come up with more money for this project, and it's just not in the budget. So the only way this project will move forward is if, that I can see right now, is if property owners, the remaining handful, decide they're going to sell at a fair value, at the appraised value, then I think we'll be able to put this project together and get it going. I think if people hold out to become rich off the sale of their property, it'll be an impossible project to finish out.
Okay, I'm wondering what this is going to do with the relocation rights.
Well, that's the problem that we tried to educate the legislators, and I don't think they understood. Without eminent domain, all of the benefits that people have, as far as a 1031, it's an IRS exchange. Mm-hmm. There were some benefits to residents if the city had the power of eminent domain and were relocated. They got all kinds of benefits that now they don't get. Uh-huh. And so if the project does move forward, those are some real problems. Now, what we will do is we would work to, from our side, to still honor all of those things, even though the law isn't in place to require it. But the problem is that the IRS question is a big one. Those sort of tax advantages, obviously we don't have control over, and the legislature just took those opportunities and advantages from you and the other property owners, and that's a big problem.
Okay, well...
Does that answer your question, Donna?
Part of it. I'm wondering about some of the folks who have not yet signed with the city. I'm hearing that they are offered humongous prices for their places, and those of us who did sign are just getting fair market price. Yeah. Is that so?
Yeah, we know there are rumors that run rampant in these kinds of situations, and the truth is that we have a fixed budget for this project, and so, Donna, we really don't even have the ability to offer them huge sums of money for their property. We only have what we have, and so we need, if this project is going to move forward, we have to have these people willing to sell for right around their appraised value.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Okie dokie.
Hey, thank you, Donna.
All right, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's Donna with us. That's got to be a problem then, isn't it? It's really the legislature have caused a little bit of a problem with these people that are already signed.
Yeah, there's a lot that they messed up, I think, without realizing it. One of them is friendly condemnation. A lot of times communities will do projects, and it's, people are really good. Most people are good, honorable. They want to do what's right for the community, and when they own a property that's in a project area, and you sit down with them and say, you know what, here's the bigger picture. And if you sell us your property, this is what we're going to do, and these are the benefits to the entire community. And we know this is a sacrifice for you. You probably don't want to sell. This wasn't in your plan. But if you'll sell, this is what we can do that is good for the greater good. Mm. And most people can see that, and even if they're not wanting to sell, will say, okay, I'm willing to pitch in and be a part of it. Well, with the power of eminent domain, because we had that, they had abilities and rights that they get that nobody can get elsewise, IRS and otherwise. And so friendly condemnation is something that happens all the time. In fact, Ogden has never used condemnation, at least since I've been here, for any of these projects, for any RDA projects. But it gives the property owners that you acquire property from benefits that they would never get otherwise, and now that's been stripped. So even if we are able to put together projects,
is there something
they don't get any benefits.
You have something planned? Is there a follow-up on this?
Well, we would like to. We hope to be able to educate legislators and help them understand. I think a lot of legislators thought cities were in favor of this. I was told that by many of them. And so hopefully over the next many months we can talk to them and help educate them and help them understand why this is so critical for the revitalization of urban centers like Ogden, and also to help the people who we're acquiring property from.
All right, we have another caller on line 2. This is Blaine, and Blaine has something to complain about with the American nutrition thing. Blaine, what's that all about? Blaine, are you there?
It's just something that several years ago I read in the paper that the mayor was going to be doing a smell test on top of the building after they installed some ion generator, and I never heard any more about it. But the stink obviously continues, and I live over here in the southeast part of the town, and last night it was extremely strong.
Okay, come on, Mayor.
Yes, this is a project that is near and dear to my heart. It's something I wanted to see happen, and that is to put scrubbers, they're called, on the American Nutrition building so that the dog food smell is eliminated. And we've been working diligently on this for the past 5 years. And the guys at American Nutrition are great to work with, and they've had many problems, and I could give you the long history. The bottom line is they've installed several scrubbers over the past several years. Some of them have failed. They've actually had to go and buy new ones and beefed up units, and I think one time they even switched to a different brand to try to remedy the situation. and they work very well when they're up and running. It's my understanding that they have several different lines, and all of the lines but one now has a scrubber installed, and they're finishing the venting work, the piping, for this final unit, and I believe that is supposed to be occurring at any time, and hopefully that they'll get that final one installed. And so when that final one is installed and everything is working fine, we shouldn't have a smell. I actually did go up and do a sniff test when they had the previous units on, and it works very well. You couldn't smell a thing from the top of the roof even as it came out. But with all technology, I think from time to time they've had problems that shut off. They've had technical difficulties. When that happens, you smell it. But hopefully people have noticed that where the smell used to be pervasive, I mean it was pretty much daily, now you get it from time to time. And I think that's because
you are working
problems. We're working it, and we're hopeful that this year all the lines will have the scrubbers installed and be working and fine-tuned. And American Nutrition's been very good to work with, and they're trying to solve this problem. This isn't something they have to do. A lot of people have thought that they're violating air quality standards, and that's not the case. The odor apparently is not regulated, at least to the level that it's coming out, and so they're doing this to be good community citizens, which I think we all appreciate.
Well, does that help you out a little bit anyway, Steve?
Yeah, the other thing I wanted to, mention is that it's not animal products they're processing either, right? It's vegetable. It just smells like animal. Is that correct?
Yeah.
That's a great question. I don't know. I
think that's the case. And a lot of people are really disgusted because they think, they're rendering, dead meat, and that's what's causing the smell. But the idea is for dog food to smell like meat. My understanding is it's vegetable, so it's still an objectionable smell, but it's not, it's not as disgusting if you think about it being dead horses or whatever they're picking up and rendering.
Yeah, at least they're working on it, Blaine.
Yeah, and the owner tells me that's not a dog food smell. It's a toasted almond smell. And if we'll think about it like that, it will feel better about it.
Right.
I don't know. I get it up where we are.
It's a stretch for me.
Blaine, thank you for calling. We appreciate the call.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Listen, we do have a line available now. We have two lines available. 627-1430 if you want to get in and talk to Mayor Godfrey. The mayor's with us this morning. And he's answering questions. That was a good question.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, because even where I live, on 10th Street, it does permeate all the way up that way too.
Yeah, it will. It's very interesting. They say that based on the barometer and the weather, and it can actually accentuate it, and it takes it to different levels. The odor, I guess, is pushed up and will kind of go horizontally.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Hey, the number again, 627-1430. We have Steve here. Steve has got a question about the condos on 25th Street. Steve, are you there?
I surely am.
All right, sir. What's your question to the mayor?
Well, good morning. First of all, Len, I'd like to say thanks to you for having this program and being a staple in this area for such a long time.
Well, thank you.
And Mayor, I know your job's not easy, and I respect public servants. They work very hard, and it's something that not everybody's cut out to do. So before I make comments, I do want to let you know that you are appreciated.
Well, thank you.
Yes, sir. I was wondering a couple of things, and you can comment on any or all of them. As far as the RDA, I was wondering why you think some of the state legislators used Ogden as the poster child for the moratorium and actually used us as an example for why they voted to put the moratorium in. Second, on the condos foreclosures that are coming up, I was reading the other day that we have to wait until next week to find out what's going on. That just, for some reason, struck a chord that infuriated me for whatever reason, and I don't know what. There's got to be more to the story. I know that. And then my third part of the question, I was wondering, do you think the Ogden Standard Examiner treats your administration fairly as far as their coverage go? And if I, as a citizen, want to find more truth or between the lines information, where would I go, in your opinion, to find a more balanced judgment on some of the issues around our area? Thank you.
Three great questions, Steve. Thank you. The first one about the poster child, we were told and led to believe that we were the poster child, at least to some degree, for the RDA legislation. It was interesting, as I have talked to many mayors across the state now, they were told the same thing. The mayor at Logan was told that they were the poster child, the mayor of Centerville, that they were West Bountiful, that they were on and on. So this was there was which is a very interesting strategy, I think. But they went around and telling people that look, it's your fault, and I think the idea was to kind of keep us quiet. If it felt like it was our fault, then you're less willing to stand up and fight and try to rally people together. And it was not us. Actually, I saw a printed material that was sent out in the legislature by the sponsor of the bill, and it showed several different projects and actually had pictures, and Ogden was not in that list of, I think, 4 or 5 projects. Mm-hmm. So I don't know that we actually were the poster child, but we certainly were led to believe that we were, which is curious in and of itself. The fact of the matter is that RDAs are the only tool that cities have to revitalize and to create economic development. Has there been abuse in the state? I believe there probably has. There are a couple of cases that really raise my eyebrows, and I think that there are things that need to be done. One would be the definition of blight. I think they need to tighten that up. But there are communities like Ogden where we have a downtown that clearly has blight. We have to clean it up. We need a tool to do that because it doesn't go away on its own. It's really interesting when I've listened to the people who are anti-eminent domain, basically for any reason, and I understand their perspective. I listen to it, and I understand what they're saying. The problem is that philosophical viewpoint doesn't fix the problem. I've not seen any city who's been able to revitalize a cancered area, cancered with blight, that's turned around on its own. It always takes intervention, and usually it takes somebody with the ability to assemble that property and to turn it around. It's always upside down economically, and so we need that. And Ogden should be the poster child for a community that needs RDAs. It's a critical tool.
Centerville was not a blight area, was it?
Well, they believe they were. They think they were, and that was one of the controversial issues, is that they thought they were, and I've not even seen the site, so I can't comment as to whether it was blighted or not, but that was one of the criticisms, was that they were using an RDA for that development.
Okay.
So anyway, that is. I think RDAs are absolutely critical, and we have to have eminent domain, or if you don't have eminent domain, you don't have an RDA. If there's no way to assemble the land, then there's no use trying to put together a project.
What was the second question?
The second question, I'm sorry, it was about the condos and about the foreclosures that are coming up and why Ogden City is not letting the 4 be sold and why we're waiting until next week for some sort of definitive answer on that, according to the Standard Examiner.
Sure. Well, the fact behind that is that we can't comment on the deal. We couldn't comment on the deal when they talked about it 2 days ago when I talked to the reporter about it, because there was no deal. There were no deal points put together, and so I can't disclose something that's not even reality yet. So at that point, all that we had were general discussions with a couple different developers. They had submitted proposals to us, and we were in the process of narrowing it down to a single developer that we felt like we could work with that would best be able to protect the city's interests and best be able to protect the project. We want that project to be successful. Since that time, actually it would be as of, I guess, yesterday, we were able to nail down an agreement, and we put it in writing, and I signed a memorandum of understanding yesterday afternoon, and within an hour or two of that, it became public. And in fact, the Standard called me yesterday to ask about it, and we did comment. So it just was a matter of timing, really. But I think it's also important to help people understand that the government needs the opportunity to negotiate as well, and we can't negotiate in an environment where you're out in the open, because then you don't have the ability to negotiate, and that's actually protected as well. Governments are given the ability to negotiate privately, but then once the deal is struck, then you have to open it up, which of course we all want, and that's critical. So it's not uncommon that cities will, or even states will not comment until a negotiation is finalized, because otherwise you're negotiating in the media, and no developer wants to do that. They're not willing to sit down and hammer it out publicly like that. So the sausage making happens behind closed doors, and then not closed doors, but between the two parties. And then once you strike a deal, it has to be opened up. We're required to show the agreement, and in fact, the memorandum of understanding has been made public, and it will be voted on Tuesday by the RDA. And I think the deal points are great. What it does is it allows the city to recover some of its investment, the majority of its investment in the project. At the same time, it maintains the values of the property, which is critical for the project to succeed. We need the sales price to remain where it is for the integrity of the project and to protect the people who've purchased there.
Already bought, yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to devalue their units and have them lose equity by underselling them. And so this arrangement allows for all of that to happen, and it won't hamper these closings. These closings should be able to take place in short order. So if there is a delay, it would be a delay, I think, of days. And I think that's pretty regular, I think, in these kinds of closings. I've dealt quite a bit in real estate, and it's not uncommon to be waiting weeks for glitches to come through before you close. So I
the
think
subcontractors will come out okay, you think, in the long run with this, basically? Are you saying that?
Well, now the subcontractors it was part of my frustration with the article. In the article you had the contractor coming out wanting to make the city responsible for them to pay the debts of themselves. It's not, we don't have anything to do with the payment of the subcontractors. That's the contractor's job. The contractor was paid, and we're keep in mind that the city was in second position. The bank is in first position, and so the bank had X amount of dollars to loan the developer for this project. Well, that money was used up. Their money was gone. And apparently, the bank has discovered afterwards that there was a lot of change orders that this contractor and this developer authorized with their subcontractors, and there wasn't money for it.
So they did it without...
They did it without the bank's knowledge, and then we have to, because we're in second position, after the bank signs off on it, it comes to us and we sign off on it. Well, that's been lost. It's never been communicated that this is actually the bank's project, but we're in the second position. So there wasn't money for it. The contractor didn't even submit these bills, or the developer, I should say, to the bank, because obviously they knew that there wasn't money for these. So now the contractor's coming around and making it look as though we're the culpable party here, and that we need to make these subs whole. And the fact of the matter is that that's the contractor's job. He hired them. The subs have contracts with the contractor, and he needs to make them whole. And he has a bond. The bank made sure that they had a bond for this project, and so if the contractor doesn't pay his subs, they can go after his bond on this project. And so anyway, we're not going to assume that responsibility. We're not going to jump in and say, gee, let us make sure everybody gets paid, and we'll use taxpayer dollars to do it because we want everybody to be happy. I mean, that's not our role.
Can't do that. Yeah. Steve, what was the third question?
And I'll be brief, and I'll let you go on, gentlemen. I appreciate your time very much. Do you think the Standard Examiner is fair to your administration? And if I were to look for other ways to find more information about, other than calling department heads or sitting in on council meetings, how would I have a better view of where the truth might lie in situations? Yeah. And by the way, Len, next time I see you, Del Monte, you owe me one aside, okay?
Okay. Listen, I want
for your
2
time,
strokes.
Okay. You got it.
Okay. That's a fair question. I think the Standard overall is fair in their reporting. I think the editorial board is very fair. Sometimes the editorial board is critical of us, and sometimes they're supportive. But overall, I feel like they have been very fair to our administration. The reporters have a tough job. They have to take sometimes very complex issues that they don't have any personal knowledge of, any background on. It's not their area of expertise. And they have to try to understand a huge volume of data and put it into a few short paragraphs. And so they have a tough job, and sometimes they get it right and sometimes they don't. And there's a couple articles in the past couple weeks just weren't quite right. And sometimes they're sensationalized. There was an article this past week where the headline was hoteliers.
Yeah, I saw it.
Hoteliers line up to protest the city tax. There was one guy there. There was one hotel owner that came. He wasn't even from Ogden, but he said, "Hey, I'm here representing hotels," and he was actually fairly positive. He said, we understand these taxes are part of doing business, and we just would like to see it go towards something that will benefit us. My read after the meeting ended, I was surprised. I thought it was extremely positive, and then I read the article, and I had no idea that there were multiple hotel owners that were there protesting it, because I didn't know of one that was there. And he didn't seem to be protesting to me. He just was making his viewpoint known and actually asking us to spend it in a different way. So that kind of thing happens from time to time. You'll read the paper, and it's a bit sensational. And in fairness to them, it's the reporters, I understand it, doesn't choose the headline. It'll be editors who weren't even there. So they read the story and then choose a headline, and oftentimes that doesn't really match.
I think you have a writer that does nothing but headlines, right?
I believe so. And you know that it's a very great, fair question to ask. Well, then how do I get the information? If you know it's never complete. I mean, because the newspaper does not have the ability to put all the information into their stories. They only have so much space. And I'm hoping that this kind of a forum can be the place where people can come and get information. We want to use Channel 17 more, but I think the interactive dialogue is really important.
I think the dialogue with the people themselves.
Yes.
Where, like, Steve just asked a couple of questions and you answered.
Yeah, and you're very generous, and we thank the owners of KLO for giving us this time, and you, Len, for giving us your time. But I think this kind of a forum will help people if they can ask questions that have been bothering them, and I can have a chance to, without script, you know, I'm just here answering the questions, and so
we just walked in and sat down, didn't we?
Yeah. So hopefully this helps people know what's going on.
And that's it. You know, and speaking of the hotel, if I read the story, and I did read the story, was the money supposed to be used for trails or something? Can you enlighten me on that?
Yeah. What happened early on when we had proposed this tax over a year ago because because there are so many things we can do with this money to enhance tourism and to provide a better quality of life. Most cities with hotels in this state have it.
Yeah.
It's 1%. It's not a ton of money, and it's not the reason that cities do it is because it's not a tax on their citizens. And so they say, "Oh, this is wonderful. We get to get money and not tax our citizens." But one of the uses that was discussed early on was trails because we were hot and heavy into trail development
and we have a great trail program.
Yeah, and we said, you know, we can enhance our trail system and maintain our trail with this money. Well, since then we've discussed dozens of other options for it, and it can go from Union Station to developing this ice climbing park we've been working on, to tourism, actually direct tourism marketing that we've been working on as well.
Or something.
Sure, there's all kinds of options, and so what we've been telling the council is, look, there's a menu of things that we can do to enhance tourism, and I would like to see it. I would probably prefer it not to be something that's purely marketing. I would like there to be a product. I'd like to see it go into infrastructure that the community can enjoy as well as tourists.
Okay. Incidentally, here I am talking. I forgot to let me give you the phone numbers again because here's your opportunity to ask the mayor anything you want to ask him. 627-1430. That's the phone number here at KLO. 627-1430. Give us a call, and the mayor will be more than happy to answer your questions. City. Now, the big story, I think, in the last week or so has been the Adams Company out at the airport. That was great. How long has the city been involved in that?
Yes, that's a project that we've been working on for several years. We've worked on it with Mel Kemp and Bryce Gibby, Gibby Aviation, Mel Kemp with his air park development.
I went by there yesterday. That's a big building.
It is phenomenal. And the quality is unbelievable. Mel Kemp has just made a remarkable investment in this community that has paid huge dividends. But there was a lot. This is a very, very complicated deal. First of all, when we first started courting Adam, there was not an incentive to attract them. There was nothing. These companies need cash to lure them in because that's what every other state is offering. And Utah didn't have any kind of a program to offer any significant money at all. And we worked very hard. We helped write the legislation that provided for a new source of funding on airports for these very kinds of businesses. Dave Harmer, who was the head of the state economic development for the governor, he actually took that legislation, finalized it, and pushed it through and got that passed. It is a completely different way of doing economic development for the state. It's a huge paradigm shift for us, and most people weren't even aware of it. But that piece of legislation that Dave Harmer did, and Dave now works for Ogden City, paved the way to make this happen. So our involvement was early on getting the legislation written, and then Dave Harmer at the state level, who lives here in Ogden but could see the value of this for the state, pushed it through. So that was 2-3 years ago that happened. Since then, there have been all kinds of site visits, proposals. The city has RDA money into the project as well to make it pencil. And Mel Kemp and Bryce Gibby are the real heroes. Those guys, Mel Kemp put up tremendous amounts of money to lure them in. Bryce Gibby is just an incredible individual and an incredible salesman for this community. And so we've been in partnership with these guys for years to bring this in, and it's going to be a very, very exciting.
What kind of impact you figure?
Well, they say that these kinds of airport or aerospace manufacturing jobs have a 3 or a 4 to 1 job ratio. So for every one job they create, and they're estimating around 400 once they're up and kind of in full swing. So you're talking 12 to 1,600 jobs as a result of them coming in, and so they will be a significant employer. And I would not. Their airplane is revolutionary as well, and I think that they will surpass people's expectations. And I think they're being very coy about what they think is going to happen. And I wouldn't be surprised if their plant here is much larger than they anticipated.
Well, and again, will that bring in maybe some other aerospace people?
We've been working, just like we've been working on these guys for years, we've been working on others as well. Yeah. And I talked to one this past week that we've been working on for some time, and to ask if we were still in the running. And I was curious to see if Adams helped us or hurt us, because they're a competitor to some degree. And they were not. They were actually, I think it actually helped us. They were very excited. In fact, he had me email more information. We're one of 4 final cities on that list, that's a big deal. If you can get to the final 4, that's neat.
Are they from Kentucky?
No, but Kentucky was one of the places that was competing for them.
At least we beat Kentucky somewhere. I knew we'd do it. And they lost last night, but hey, listen, we got even with you. Let me give you the phone number again. Here I am doing all the talking. We want you to do the talking. The number is 627-1430. That's the number to call if you want to talk to the mayor. Talk to him about anything you want. I want to talk to you about... I noticed there's some activity down on 24th Street, the mall. There's dirt going there. In fact, I came up one of the streets, and you got a through street going there, right?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, it's actually taking shape now.
Yeah. How is the mall thing coming?
It's coming along very well. There will be 3 roads that actually go back through. There'll be 23rd Street, right, Kiesel, and then 2250, whatever the name of that one is, that Oak, or I don't remember. Yeah. So those roads will go back through, and they actually are taking shape now. They almost look like roads. They've got the dirt pretty much in place, and you can see a lot of the infrastructure in place. The pipes are pretty much in the ground now and ready to go. Fire hydrants are up and in place. So it's finally taking shape, and I think they'll probably have the roads actually done in the next 30 days or so. And then we actually get to have buildings come up out of the ground, and that'll be exciting. I think Treehouse will be the
Treehouse
first.
Coming first?
Yeah, I think we'll see in the next 30 days, I believe they'll have a groundbreaking, and following the Treehouse, we'll have the new High Adventure Recreation Center that the city's partnering in, and that should take place probably, early summer, late spring, early summer. I would guess that one will start out of the ground as well.
I bet you're relieved to see something going, huh?
Yeah. But we've had something going for the past 3.5 years, but nobody sees it. It's tearing down the mall, and that wasn't, at least that's movement, but that wasn't real exciting for people. We've been working on the parking garage for a year, and that's not very interesting. So it's good to have something.
I think the thing was that you tore down the mall because of the parking, and now we got the parking, but we don't have the mall. How many times have you heard that?
Oh, a million times. There's certainly a lot of belief that the reason that the mall failed was because of the parking, and so why would we keep the parking? But anyway.
Anyway, we do have a caller. All right, let's take the call, and this is Steve again. Hi there, Steve.
Hi, this is a different Steve.
Yeah, I can tell.
Not getting a double shot here.
Okay.
Hi, Mayor. I wanted to ask you a question. It seems like there's a little bit of unequal justice as far as the raising of animals in Ogden City. I live in central Ogden City, and I have a friend who some time ago was cited for having a few ducks and chickens that he was using for insect control, so he doesn't have to spray chemicals on his food that he wants to grow. And yet the city made him get rid of those. And then I live a little ways away, and every morning I get woken up with a rooster. And I know it's from a population that's not native to our country. They're in here, and it seems like there's a deaf ear turn towards a problem like this, And I'm just wondering, what sets the criteria for somebody being able to have a rooster versus someone have a duck that makes no noise at all and eats bugs off a plant?
Never expected a question like that.
This one is a surprise, I must admit, Steve. Actually, roosters are not allowed in the city. We only allow domesticated animals, and chickens and ducks and geese do not qualify. So they actually are not allowed to have a rooster. And we have animal control officers working today. And so what I'd encourage you to do is, if you'll call them up and tell them the address of it, or if you don't know the exact address, the approximate, and they might have to come out at 5 in the morning to find a rooster, but they'll be glad to go out and track it down.
Could be a problem for them to find, but it just seems like somebody would have already called, because it is in the distance. It's not real close to me, so I'm not sure where it is. But it's kind of odd that a duck who makes no noise gets cited, but a rooster who does get cited. So just want to make sure that the law is being applied justly. So if I can find out who's doing that, they will be cited for it.
Yeah, they'll have to get rid of the farm animal, and we don't. We do send trucks around that go through neighborhoods and look for problems with animal control, but the reality is that 90+% of what we are able to find is because people tell us. It's when you're living there and you know what's happening next door, you can tell us much better than we can ever see from the street. And so we really rely on you to tell us what's happening and where there are violations. And we view ourselves as a service. While we do a policing function, we're really a service organization, and so we look to serve you. And if there's problems like the rooster in the morning, we want to go and remedy that for you.
Sure.
And so let us know, and we'll go take care of it.
Another question I have, if I might, is what is the process when you have a noisy neighbor and they're up partying until 2 in the morning? I mean, I have a neighbor next door, and right now they seem much calmer, and I just wonder what the process is for maybe those who have a problem like this, a neighbor who's out screaming in the middle of the night, partying and drinking and stuff like that. I mean, you call the police, and it seems like the party's over before they get up here on a Friday or Saturday night, and, it just doesn't seem like there's any follow-up on it as to kind of quiet these guys down, because I've called before, but every Friday and Saturday night they used to have a party, and I'm just wondering what does a homeowner do when you have a renter next door who's causing problems like this without going out with your rifle and telling them quiet down,
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, we'd encourage you not to do that.
Exactly. That's why I call the police, so that's into it.
Yeah, that we want you to call the police. I know some people feel bad; they feel like they're bothering the police if there's a repetitive problem like this. But we are there, and the police are there to serve you, and they want to take care of that problem. So I'd encourage you to call. There's another thing that I would really encourage you to do, and that is to contact your community policing officer. When you call 911 or the police non-emergency number, they send a patrol officer. And a patrol officer, while he has a specific area, he's there on a shift and he answers calls. And that's what he does pretty much all night long. When there aren't calls, he does proactive things. But they're there that shift and then they're gone, and they could be transferred to another area or shift at any time. Community police officers are assigned to your area, and they do proactive problem solving. And so I'd really encourage you to contact them. And what they will do most of the time, if there's a party house like that, is they'll go over and they'll talk to them and say, they may issue a citation if a neighbor is willing to testify and go to court and if necessary to testify that they've been engaging in that behavior. Otherwise, they'll go and talk to them and say, we understand this is going on, and we're here to let you know that if it continues, you will be cited and you'll be paying a fine. And if it continues past the citation, we'll be taking you to jail. That's very effective and catches their attention. When they're sober and you have that conversation, it tends to make a difference. But they're the problem solvers, and they even work on evenings and weekends, and especially as the weather warms up, so that they can attack these specific problems. So the message is you do not have to live with it. Call the police, but get a hold of your community police officer, and you can do that on the internet. Go to the internet and look it up.
Yep. That's how you get a hold of them, is on the internet?
You can call the police department with the number in the phone book and ask for them, or you can go online and pick it up right away.
All right, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for calling. Appreciate that. I have another caller. Good morning. And this is TJ, right?
That's correct.
TJ, you want to talk about Pioneer Days?
I do.
All right, good.
With the sun shining, that's coming up.
24th.
The 24th. Wonderful. We have, mainly, I've heard it rumored, and you know what that does, that there will be no Pioneer Day Parade on the 24th. And there's a number of people that are listening to this response, so and I'm not sure that the paper will pin it correctly, so we'd like to have a good response here.
All right, there's a good. Anything else there, TJ? Or
Well, I think that's the main one for today.
all right, sir. Thank you. We'll have the mayor answer that. What do you think? There, are we going to have a parade?
We are going to have a parade. There are a lot of people. I should say, there are some people that are nervous because we have contracted this out. We actually have an Ogden Pioneer Day Foundation now that is in charge of the rodeo and the parade, and there are some that are pretty nervous that because it's not, and before it's been done by a volunteer committee, and these committee members are the same people that are in the foundation for the most part, and so it's not like it's a completely different crew, or that the city's never been directly doing it before, but there are some people that are nervous that because it is formally this foundation doing it, that it's not going to happen, but it will. There is going to be a parade, and I think it'll be as spectacular or more spectacular this year than it's been in the past. So
and you
rest assured.
I noticed this morning you're taking over the old Piccadilly Fish and Chips, right?
They're gonna have this foundation will have their offices there, which will give them great visibility and help remodel that building.
Okay. All right. Good. So we are going to have a parade.
Yes.
All right. And you're going to be in it.
Only if they ask me.
Maybe. All right, let's see. We do have Lynn here, and what's your question, Lynn?
Well, first of all, Len, I just wanted to say that you're great. I've been listening to you for over 50 years.
And I'm only 17. Oh, thank you.
And, Mayor, regarding the former Ogden City Mall property, that'll be the Treehouse Museum and a recreation complex. And will that take up all of the space of the former mall area? And that'll be constructed this summer. Is that correct?
That's a great question. It's clear that I've not made it clear what's going on in there because I had a lot of people ask, why just a rec center in the mall? Shouldn't we have other things? And the answer is no. Those are the first two buildings. There's going to be many other things. The other buildings that will be constructed there'll be an office building on the northeast corner of the mall. There will be some retail. There'll be retail actually down below and then an office building above. And then on the northwest corner, there will be retail down below and housing up above. We're working on bookstores, other retail outlets, movie theaters, restaurants. And then, when we talk about retail, some of the traditional things that you'd expect to see. There'll probably be some clothiers, some, the bookstore, the kinds of things you'd expect to have in a mall kind of environment. We want to make them as unique as possible. We don't want to compete with the Newgate Mall because that's Ogden's mall as well.
I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think it's out in South Ogden.
Right, yeah, and it's not. It's an Ogden mall, and we want it to succeed. It's done very well. And we want that to continue. So as much as possible, we are encouraging the developers of this mall project to bring in different products and as much that's unique as possible. So the Treehouse and the High Adventure Recreation Center are just the first two, but there will be many others. Theaters, and the theaters will follow on. They need there to be other activity before they're up and running. And so it would probably be later on this year that the theaters would get going, would be my guess.
Do you have anybody lined up for that?
We have people we've been working on with that. And so this summer you asked, will it start this summer? And the answer is the Treehouse Museum and the Recreation Center and possibly some others, some housing and hopefully the office building and a couple others will get going this summer. So you'll see buildings coming up out of the ground, but it will kind of be done in a serial fashion to some degree because the theaters want to follow on, and then the restaurants want to be there not before the theaters are done, and then once you have that nucleus is when we'd go after the retail because the retailers really do not like urban malls. They really prefer a suburban. That's what they know. That's what they do, and that kind of format is what they're comfortable with. So to bring them into an urban environment. Like in Ogden or Salt Lake, and this is exactly why Salt Lake's mall is struggling as well, you have to have something very unique, and you have to prove that you have the clientele to support them. And so these other elements will come together first to create this nucleus, and after we have that nucleus, we'll see more of the traditional retail kinds of things coming in.
Lynn, does that answer your question?
Yeah, the recreation complex, what part of the mall will that occupy, and how much space will it take? Do you know?
It will be, as 23rd Street goes back through the mall and Kiesel, so if you can picture an intersection at 23rd and Kiesel, it will be on the northwest corner of that intersection that's being put in right now. So it'll fit right up against the parking garage, which is part of the strategy. We understand that the parking garage isn't attractive, and so we're going to hide it as much as we can. So the development that happens will cover the parking structure. So we'll go in that corner, and it doesn't quite, well, between the recreation center and the housing that will be built immediately north of the recreation center, it will cover that remaining section of the parking garage. So as you go and look at the northern half, I guess, of the parking structure, that's about the size, west of Kiesel. That will be the size of the development with the housing.
Okay.
Okay, and you don't know yet what will be fronting Washington Boulevard on that property, I guess, do you?
Yeah, that will be the latter phase, which will be more of the retail, and so that will be kind of the phase 2 that comes on. So the ones that we are hoping we'll have there would be the bookstore. Bookstores don't do well in Utah. It's been really hard to get anyone's attention because they all say that they don't make money, which is curious because we're one of the most highly educated states in the country.
Barnes and Noble's always full.
It seems like it, and in Salt Lake as well, but they claim that they don't do well here, and so we've had a hard time getting one to be interested in putting another store in Utah. But that's one we'd like to have on Washington. Some of the traditional retailers we'd have, and then there'll be housing up above. So on the second, third, and stories, probably maybe a fourth story, we would have housing on Washington Boulevard, and then on the bottom floor is where you'd have your traditional retail. So it'll really mirror what's on the other side of the street. That's how that was originally built, was retail below and then housing up above.
All right, sir. Hey, thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, tram. How's that coming?
Well, the tram or the gondola project is one that we're very interested in. We're working on it with all the other projects we're doing, trying to look at how can we do it, what's feasible, what are the possible routes, what would be the financing, how could all of that work. So it's a huge project. It's a massive undertaking, but it's something that we're working on very actively because we'd like to see something happen with that.
Okay, good. Well, we're moving. Hi there. Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. And your question for the mayor.
Yes, Mayor. I had a question. It's a quick two-part question. One, now that SB 184 was passed and eliminated eminent domain and adjusted the new RDA laws, what are your plans for the previous Walmart and Riverfront project sites? And the second question is why you think it's absolutely necessary to have eminent domain in your toolbox to clean up and maintain a city. Why you think that's the only, one of the only remedies to do that. I think that's dangerous thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Jason Roosh, who's been a very adamant opponent of the Walmart and of RDAs in general, but I appreciate the respectful way in which you asked the question, Jason.
Thank you.
There's uncertainty as to what's going to happen there. The fact of the matter is this corridor, the 21st and Wall area between 21st and 2250 on that corner of Wall is a blighted area. We heard from a lady who actually lives there. She was our first caller, I believe, who wants to sell. Most of them are that way. They are looking for an opportunity to get out of that neighborhood and get a good value for their homes. Most all of them realize that they need that neighborhood is not improving over time, it's deteriorating. They have mixed uses in there. You have a manufacturing facility right next to a home, right across the street from a tire shop. And it becomes more and more mixed over time and has deteriorated more and more over time. And that's a core part of our downtown. And if we're going to turn that around, there has to be intervention. And it's upside down. The values are such that the private sector can't come in and buy that up and make it work. They're not going to be able to do it financially. It's just impossible for somebody privately to do. And that's why RDAs were established. The state and the country recognize that. This is common all over the country, that these kinds of situations exist, especially in urban centers. And the only way you can turn them around is if there's an infusion of capital that can turn the upside-down nature of it around and make it pencil. And so the RDA provided financing to make that happen. The other thing that it does is it gives the cities eminent domain, because invariably what happens in a situation like this one, where there are 63 property owners, is you can negotiate, as we have, with more than 50 of them who are, most of them, anxious to sell as long as they're treated fairly. They're anxious to sell, and they want to get out of there, and this is a lifetime opportunity for them. But then you get down to the remaining handful who have a variety of reasons. They're typically financial. They want to become rich off the sale of this property. And so they can hold everybody else hostage and kill a project. And so cities were given eminent domain so that that can't happen, so that you can say, look, there's a greater good, which is we need to clean up this area. We need to revitalize our downtown. That's important for the entire community. And eminent domain means that there can't be one property owner who holds a gun to the head of everybody else and says, we're not going to allow you to do it. So but for that ability, projects like this would never happen. Cities would never attempt them. There's no way we'd ever attempt to acquire 63 properties in an area, because the probability of getting every one of them on board at the same time is so close to zero, it's just not worth the effort. We've spent more than a year of our time with multiple staff, full-time, working to put this together. And with eminent domain, it's taken us over a year, and so we still have a handful that aren't coming to the table. So that's the reality, is that there's no way to do these kinds of projects, and so there's no way to clean up your downtown unless you have those tools. And it's been proven over time. It's not that this is a subjective issue. The reason RDAs came about was because cities continued to deteriorate over time.
Jason, does that answer your question?
Well, it does for the part of why they think RDAs and eminent domain are essential to that. But the answer, I'm not sure I was clear on that, but I don't think I got the answer of what are their plans for those two areas in terms of revitalization or
our problem is that we've got about 2 minutes.
We don't know at this point, because those tools have been stripped from us. There's no clear path to those projects at this point.
Jason, thank you for calling. We appreciate your call. It's nice to hear from Jason. And, we've only got about 2 minutes. I have one more call here. The Newgate Mall is not, see, Don, you want to answer? You want to ask the mayor real fast?
Is he aware that Newgate Mall is not entirely in Ogden City? And also, it appears to me that this Ogden Mall area is just more or less a smaller copy of Gateway in Salt Lake.
Actually, the entire Newgate Mall is in Ogden. Some of the stores that surround it on the east side of the mall are not in Ogden. But the mall itself, in its entirety, is in Ogden City. They drew the boundary, in fact, right around the mall itself. So the Newgate Mall itself is in Ogden, but the stores to the east of it at one location and to the south of it are not. And so that's the boundary of the Newgate Mall. And
well, then someone extended the boundary, because I happen to be the one that surveyed it, and a good portion of the mall itself is in Riverdale.
That's not the case anymore. So maybe years ago somebody did adjust it. I'm
they must have changed it when the last city manager got in trouble.
Yeah, probably.
They must have done it, because I know it's all in the city now.
Hey, thanks, Don. Appreciate your call. Well, we've only got about a minute left here, and I want to thank you for coming on. I think we've covered. There's a lot of questions I still have here. That the Parkway. I mean, gee whiz. Well, we'll do this again.
Great, thank
you.
We
want to thank Bill Francis and his son for being with us on Channel 17.
Yes.
We'll find out when this is going to be on Channel 17. Very soon, probably.
Yeah, we'll air this live. You get to see our bright, shining faces on.
I don't even want to think about it. Really, we
you
appreciate.
Look good.
Oh yeah. Appreciate you being here, really.
Thank you.
It's been a lot of fun, and we got to do this again. And I think that everybody who's called in, we appreciate their calls. They did a good job, and everybody got answered, and I think that's important.
I think so. We had a good time. Thank you, Len, for hosting.
Well, thank you. I, again, will be with you again next week. Incidentally, too, I want to this water quality report.
Yes.
This came with my utility bill.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty good. You got a mayor's report to the people in there. That's pretty good, really. So if you open your mail and you see something that says water, don't throw it away. I'm Len Allen, and I'll be with you again next week when once again we'll be on the go.